Assalamu alaikum. This is Dr. Muhammad Khalid, and I'm going to talk about the microbiology, uh, which is basic and may be required for the pharmacy student. So the area I'm going to cover about the structure, function, and characterization of microorganism. So the first topic in this, I'm going to deal with the microbial classification, and then I will go to the structure of the microbes, and then metabolism, and then how their genetic information passes from one generation to next generation. S- uh, so in the beginning, they were grouped into three domain classification system, and the main group were the prokaryotes as well as the eukaryotes. And in the prokaryote, there are the two major groups. One was bacteria, the second was archaea or archaebacteria. So this bacteria is further grouped into gram-positive bacteria, mitochondrion, proteobacteria, cyanobacteria, chloroplast, and hyperthermophiles. So they are subgroups, and they have different characteristic depending on their behavior and where they grow. And normally what we get the bacteria in our daily life that belongs to this group, the bacteria. And there are another group which is also prokaryotic cell structure, and it is not commonly found at our living place, but rather in the rare condition like in the hot spring, or they are called as hyperthermophiles, or they are in very high salt concentration, they are called as extreme halophiles. And another group is methanogen, they are growing in very high methane concentration. So these both group have doesn't have the intracellular well organized organelles. So for example, they don't have the nucleus, they don't have mitochondria, they don't have endoplasmic reticulum, and they don't have Golgi body and so on. But they have the cytoplasm, and all biochemical reactions takes place in the cytoplasm. And generally in eukaryotic cell, we have the chromosome in the nucleus, and depending on the species the number of chromosome varies. But in prokaryote there is always one single chromosome in the circular form, it is hanging around in the cytoplasm. Now coming to the eukaryote, in this case we may have the unicellular or multicellular organelles, meaning it may have just one cell to make the complete organism, or else they may be multi-cell, which makes the complete organism, like the human or plants or any other higher animals. So this eukarya or eukaryotic cells can be further grouped into animals, so it belongs to all animals including us. And they may have the fungi, so this is the fungi or slime. This basically mainly heterotrophs, they may be unicellular or multicellular. Another group is slime molds, and that is very close to the fungi in the cellular structure, but mostly and we have another group that is plants, and most of the green plants, they are basically belong to this group. And we also have certain unicellular like the flagellates and giardia, and many of these species are causing diseases also to us, or parasite using another species for their food requirement. And there are many of these the plants basically are the green plants which can make their own food using the sunlight. So, and we are mostly dependent on the plants for our food requirement. So now let's go to the next slide. In this case we are talking about the five kingdom of classification. In the previous slide what we saw, this was three domain, but here we have the five kingdom of classification. In this case the first one is basically prokaryotes. Like you saw before, it was in among the prokaryotes we have the archaea and bacteria. these two groups were there, and the third was eukarya. But in this case, the prokarya and eukaryotes. So depending on the cellular organization, they are grouped into two, prokaryotes and eukaryotes. So prokaryote doesn't have the intracellular organization well defined like in eukaryotes, but in eukaryote they have the intracellular organelles which are specified for a specific function, and they are generally membrane bound. And this eukaryote may be multicellular, or it may be unicellular. If it is multicellular, then it is mostly belong to the protista, and it may be various categories. You can see them. There are so many in the list. And further for the evolution, they are at the multicellular level. They are belong to the animalia, or mostly the animals. They may be myceti or fungi, and they may be green plants or belong to the plantae. So in this way, they are grouped into 5 different group, or 5. This is called as the 5 kingdom of classification. Depending on their infectivity, there are certain non-living organism can also cause diseases or infections. So on that basis, we can further divide them in on the basis of like the living organism or non-living infectious agent. So among the non-living infectious agent, the one is virus. This is basically a link between the living and non-living world, and the viruses may have either DNA or RNA, and which is covered with a protein that is called as a capsid, and some protein may further have another covering that is called as an envelope. And mostly they are obligate parasites, so they cannot survive outside the host cell. So they, for their multiplication, they must need a host cell. The next group of the non-living infectious agent is the viroids. This is RNA, and this naked RNA is capable of causing diseases. And the last one for the non-living organism is prion. This is a protein mostly in mammal, and this protein is present in our brain cell. This is expressed in our brain cell, and it is required for brain cell communication or cell signaling. But because of their misfolding, or because of their folding in a different manner, that become a protease resistant, so they cannot be lysed so easily, and then it's with the time it gets accumulated in the brain, and the brain basic functions basically hindered, and we develop into a pathogenic situation, and this causes diseases in most of the mammals. And then the person got infection with the prion, or with the developing with the misfolded protein would going to die if not treated well. But at present we don't have the proper treatment even. But the good thing is that this disease is not something very common, but still that exists. So we must know about this. And now among the living organism of the microbial world, they are further grouped, as you saw before: prokaryote, that is unicellular, and eukaryote, that may be unicellular or multicellular. So the prokaryote, we already saw that has the two main category, eubacteria and archaebacteria. Some of the member of this group, they may cause diseases to us even. And among the eukaryote, there may be algae, that is mostly aquatic. It may be unicellular or multicellular. And we have another group that is called as a fungi, and this is mostly heterotrophic. And they cannot make their own food, they are dependent on others for their food. And then we may have the animal cell, that is, if it is unicellular, then it belongs to the group protozoa, while if it is multicellular, then there are further subcategories.